folks, guess where I'm to now? I'm out at Cape Spear, also known as Fort Cape Spear, also known as the most easterly point in North America. And behind me stands the oldest surviving wooden lighthouse in Newfoundland. Built in 1855, it consists of a stone tower surrounded by wood framing. The original light for this lighthouse came from the Inchkeith Lighthouse in Scotland. It was eventually replaced with modern equipment in 1912, and the modern equipment of 1912 was actually transferred from this original lighthouse to the new concrete lighthouse, which is just down the shore a little bit here. I'm going to show you inside here now, but first we'll give you a little peek around the outside. This lighthouse has been designated as a National Historic Site of Canada. There's the new lighthouse, was built in 1955. It's made of concrete. You can see we have a stone foundation, and inside is a stone tower with this wooden framing built around it for the lighthouse keeper's family to live in. This plaque commemorates the designation of Cape Spear Lighthouse under the Heritage Lighthouse Protection Act. It's a heritage lighthouse. So during tourist season or summer season, you're able to go in for a tour here, and I'm going to show you that right now. I came here just before they closed for the season, but it's open from May to October 10th being the last day, and that's when I came out to get the interior footage for you guys. So an adult is $9 Canadian. Senior citizens are only $7.50, and youth are free to have a visit and walk through. There's 4 bedrooms in here, many fireplaces to keep warm. Let's go inside. I'm going to show you the inside now. Let's go inside. Yeah. Hello. Bonjour. Hi. It's okay for a camera?
Yeah, cameras are fine.
Okay. Okay.
Then we're open for another 5 minutes here.
Okay, great. I won't be long. This is the last day of the season, is it?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Just put it in the oven here. Bake your bread. Old school clock. Little chessboards. This is actually the last day of season at the Cape Spear Lighthouse is open, and they're trying to close in 5 minutes, so we're going to take a quick peek around. All this furniture is original. Probably original wallpaper too. Again, we have windows in the stairwell. This would have been the access to the light for the lighthouse. Can't get up there right now, but staff only. Here's another bedroom. Kind of poorly lit, guys. It's not wired. They would have had lanterns and candles back in the day. Linseed oil, $5 or 5 cents. A lot of woodworking tools in here. Okay, and we got a lot of oak barrels here. Molasses, 10 gallons. Flour from DeWitt's, super fine. Danzig flour. Olive oil, 5 gallons. Oatmeal. Sperm oil. And this is how the supplies would have came into Newfoundland back in the day. And we are at the last bedroom, so quite a few bedrooms for a small lighthouse. Could sleep a whole family here. And can't forget the Jamaican rum, 5 gallons there. Well, codfish was traded for rum, Jamaica, back in the day. Here's an old gin wheel here. That's how they would have hoisted the supplies instead of carrying them up the stairs, I guess. Curved walls, curved hallways. It's pretty interesting, eh guys? Hit the like button and subscribe. I'm gonna give you a tour around the outside now. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Have a good day.
You too.
Normally it's $9 admission for an adult to get in. Children under 17 are free at all times. And but because they were just about to close, they didn't charge me today. They said we're closing in like 10 minutes, so run on up. There won't be a charge today. My buddies and I, there was a rumor when I was in high school that this place was very haunted. So we used to come out here at night and walk up next to it and see if we could see any ghosts. This is a heavy duty flagpole here. Is all this just for flags? Can't be. There's the old foundation of something here. lighthouse built right on the edge of this cliff here. It was actually I won't talk about that story actually. But here we have a it looks like a survey marker. US coast. Some type of survey marker drilled right into the rock there. What a beautiful spot. So in summertime, this is October here now, but at the beginning, the early part of whale season, which is anywhere from April to October, I find the most whales come here around real early July or late June. Anyway, we've seen them many times going right along the coast here. Just, you know, just in this white foam, 50 or 100 feet off the shore. And they cruise back and forth. Because this is a big point here, and a lot of the bait fish would have to swim by this point to get into the rest of the coves and harbors. Over here we have one of the supply ships leaving St. John's, and that's Signal Hill up on the top of that mountain there. The St. John's Harbour is right where that light is flashing at Fort Amherst. Sun is setting here now, but I made it before they closed. I'll be back in the morning and give you guys a drone view and a bit more exploring around the area here. There's a whole bunch of military bunkers down on the water's edge, and the coastline here is just breathtaking. I'll be showing you some of that again tomorrow. Hit the like button, subscribe, comment down below what your favorite part of this video is. So right now we're out at Cape Spear, the most easterly point in North America, and from here you'll be able to see the entrance to the harbor to St. John's. This is one of the 3 forts that they use to protect the entrance to St. John's and protect Newfoundland and North America from lurking U-boats, German U-boats, and the German Navy during World War II and World War I. So if you look across the bay here, you'll be able to see Cape Spear and Fort Amherst. I'll point it out to you here now. We got some big surf here, and I'm going to send the drone up, see the beautiful waves. So right over here, you see something on the top of the cliff over here. That's Cabot Tower and Signal Hill. Down to the left of that is Fort Amherst. And I'm going to bring you over to Fort Amherst at the end of this video as well. So now we're going to head down towards the tunnels that were built around 2 10-inch guns that were installed here. They're actually American guns that came from a battery that was on the Delaware River, protecting the approaches to Philadelphia. And they were known as the disappearing guns because they could be moved back underneath a concrete structure for reloading and for maintenance, and also to prevent detection from enemy spy craft or airplanes. So let's head on down over the cliff here now. So the light you see spinning in this lighthouse is actually from 1912, and it was transferred over from the original lighthouse. This is actually my second time making this video. The first time it was raining and like 85-kilometer-hour winds, and the microphone didn't work for the audio, so it's a much better day for it. and the waves are up, so you get to see how vicious the Atlantic can be. Even though it's not too windy today, the surf is high. And down here behind me we have a art gallery and a cafe in this other white building, and they're open during the tourist season from May to October. So you can still see the remains of like concrete pillars and structures here, foundations, and I believe these were anti-aircraft artilleries and guns here. Here's the start of the trail to get down to the tunnels. Let's go check it out. Remembrance Day was just 4 days ago. I thought, what a better way to remember and honor our veterans and active military personnel to come out here and show you guys a historic site and how they protected us during the First and Second World Wars. As you can see, we got pounding surf here behind me. There has been a few tourists lost that tried to get down too close to the water. The whales come right by here every year, typically around May or June at the beginning of whale season here, which runs from say May to the end of September. Sometimes as early as April, but the most popular times for them is right around May or June. They'll be coming by here, and you can see humpback whales, minke whales, blue whales, right whales. We've seen narwhals, seals, all kinds of wildlife here just right off these rocks. Alright, so right now I'm at the western edge of the entrance to the tunnels, where the two American 10-inch guns were stationed here, and they were operated by the Royal Canadian Artillery troops. And the Americans did have a radar station nearby, and they also operated anti-aircraft searchlights, and I would imagine anti-aircraft guns as well. And if you're interested in learning about the radar station that the Americans operated, I have a video already on my channel about that one, and it's called "I Found This in the Woods." It's one of my older videos, so just scroll down through the videos and you'll be able to find it. I'm going to link it to this video here as well, so hopefully it'll play for you right after this one. Alright, so check this out, you guys. Up here we have a ventilation shaft, and the tunnels are closed right now because it's the end of tourist season. Winter is coming, and these tunnels most likely fill up with snow, and you'd literally need an army to keep the snow out of here. So they're closed up for the winter, but May to October you can walk through and see all the different ammunition holds and different chambers they had in there for the troops that were stationed here. So here we have one of the two 10-inch American guns we have here at Fort Cape Spear, and these were the disappearing guns. And the concrete has been added a little bit, and these have been painted and restored a little bit to look in their original colors. And the gun would have been able to slide back under this tunnel for reloading and for maintenance. But as you can see, it's quite a big gun, and it would have been on a swivel to be able to point in different directions out into the ocean. And these also would raise and lower. They had a mechanism to raise and lower the gun as well. It was quite an operation to them. So here we have the #1 ready room. Here's the ventilation shafts. So this is where they would have stored the shells and ammunition for these 10-inch guns. Here's a little look through the tunnel, you can kind of see. Goes right on over that way, towards the west side. There's a room here and another small room here. Even these gates are pretty old. What do you think of this so far, you guys? Hit the like button if you're enjoying this. Hit subscribe, it's free if you haven't already. And when you're subscribed, all my videos will show up in your feed. Every time you open YouTube, you'll see my new videos and my older videos. It's a great way to support the creators on YouTube, and also it's easier way for you to find my content each time you search on YouTube for something to watch. So being the most easterly point in North America, if I jumped in a rowboat right now and headed straight east, I'd land in Ireland. There's nothing between us and Ireland. And that's quite a long distance. Like how the settlers came across in big wooden schooners back in the day is pretty impressive. You can see ventilation shafts in the hillside behind me. That's where the tunnel runs along to the second gun emplacement. So here behind me is the second 10-inch artillery gun here. Check it out, you guys. There's a little bit more information on this one as well. So these were brought here in 1941. Troops are stationed here from 1941 to 1945. And when the war ended, they took everything out of here except for the tunnels and these two guns. They took out their radar equipment, their searchlights. They demolished all the barracks that they had built over in the parking lot area. And here we have the #2 ready room. Here's the expense magazine. To ensure the guns could be brought into immediate action, a few rounds were stored near the gun position in small concrete chambers. As in the magazines, the projectiles and propellant charges were kept separate. The compartments were offset from the gun position to reduce the chance of ammunition being set off by enemy fire. So here would be one compartment, and the charges were probably kept in this compartment here. You can see the weathering the salt water has done to the steel since 1941. Almost 100 years ago, this fort was built. And slowly flaking away. Here would have been the ready room. During the Second World War, Fort Cape Spear served as a counter-bombardment battery for St. John's Harbour. As the first line of defence, the fort's two massive guns always needed to be ready for action. A ready room behind each gun provided a space where the duty crew could shelter and relax 24 hours a day. To make their wait more comfortable, these rooms were equipped with a stove, communal table, and bunks. These soldiers, like firemen at a fire hall, lived at their posts while on duty, ready to jump into action if an alarm was sounded. And here's what they looked like in action. See how they could be raised above the concrete barrier, raised up and ready to fire. And this mechanism also lowered it and allowed it to be moved back. And that's why they were known as the disappearing guns. These huge gun barrels are all that remain of Cape Spear's wartime armament. They were known as disappearing guns because they could be lowered behind the protective concrete parapet for loading and maintenance. In 1896, these two guns were installed at Fort Mott on the Delaware River to guard the approaches to Philadelphia. The American government sold them to Canada in 1941 as part of a wartime arms supply agreement. The guns were installed here at Cape Spear in November of 1941. After the Second World War, the carriages were dismantled and removed from the site. The steel gun barrels were manufactured at the WWII Arsenal in New York in the 1890s. They are nearly 10 meters long and weigh more than 30 tons each. Hydraulic cylinders were installed for recoil cylinders that helped to absorb some of the momentum the gun barrel experienced after firing. The counterweight was composed of lead discs with a total weight of 36 tons. Its momentum as it dropped into a shallow pit pulled the gun up into a firing position. When the gun was fired, the barrel recoiled back to its loading position, raising the counterweight. The shell, weighing more than 250 kilos, would be brought from the magazine on a wheel trolley and was already in position to be quickly loaded into the breech of the gun. Guns like this could be fired about once every 2 minutes. The carriage was known as Buffetin Crozier carriage, from the names of its designers. Each carriage weighed 60 tons. Because they could be pivoted to give a very wide angle of fire, Cape Spear guns could cover all of the ocean approaches to St. John's Harbour. These are all members of the 103rd Coast Battery Royal Canadian Artillery at the rear of one of the main guns at Fort Cape Spear. Pretty interesting stuff, eh guys? Let's go down and have a little look at the ocean waves here. And there was also two more false dummy batteries installed between here and Fort Amherst. Over behind me in this town behind this cliff is the cove of Blackhead, the town of Blackhead and Blackhead Cove. I would imagine on the top of that cliff And at one more point there was another like a dummy artillery, just had fake guns with a bunch of rocks piled around it, and it gave the impression that this place was more fortified than it was, and it also in the hopes that it would draw fire away from these actual manned positions if there was to be such an attack. Eyes to the east. Not far from where you stand now, soldiers once kept a lonely village from a dangerous enemy. During the Second World War, the St. John's Harbour was the main base for a fleet of warships charged with protecting convoys of vulnerable cargo vessels, carrying supplies and soldiers to Europe. These escort ships relied on the port to provide the vital supplies, fuel, and repair facilities they needed to complete their dangerous transatlantic missions. Soldiers stationed here at Fort Cape Spear protected the approaches to the harbour and its valuable resources. They held a constant watch for signs of enemy warships, planes, and submarines, knowing that many of the Allied ships they saw sailing east toward Europe were being sunk just over the horizon. So here's a little shot of the barracks that were built right in amongst this area here. Here's one of the anti-aircraft guns, Fort Cape Spear. Here's the radar hut. And here's what this site looked like from the air. You can see there was quite a few barracks here. This was the war watching station near the location of the modern light tower. All like barn style builds, eh? The cranes and gun positions under construction, and the artillery was dragged in by bulldozers. Here's the old war trucks. The boys getting the weekend off, go to St. John's. Soldiers are marching out of Fort Cape Spear. Here are the members of the 103rd Coast Battery, Royal Canadian Artillery, on parade. Here's the sergeant's mess. Looks like they're having a turkey dinner. Lots of homemade bread there. And here's Joan Blondell, a famous American actress visiting Fort Cape Spear in 1942. And here's what a soldier looked like in his winter gear back in the day. And here behind me is the entrance on the eastern side of the tunnel system. So here's today's modern day parking area. We're gonna head over to Fort Amherst here now. Sounds like the foghorn is going non-stop though. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but we'll have to get a little bit creative on how we film over there, because it's like deafening sound. And there's one more concrete foundation here left behind. Alright Alright folks, here we are now in front of the Blackhead one-room school and church museum. Built in 1879. This is how the children went to school back in the day. It was just a one-room school. And a lot of the times children had to hike for a few miles to get to school. And they would have to carry 1 or 2 junks of wood. Every child would. And that would be enough wood to heat the schoolhouse for the whole entire day, so they could learn what they had to learn. So this place is open from July and August. You can have a little tour. It has been restored. St. Joseph's was originally built as a one-room school during the summer of 1879 to educate the children of Blackhead. The Roman Catholic Superintendent's report for the period indicates that about 10 students were enrolled in this school. A stone church was also located at the same area, on the eastern side of the school. By the late 1800s, the mortar in the stone church had started to decay, making the building unsafe for service. At that point, the wooden school assumed a dual role of place of worship and learning. St. Joseph's Chapel, Blackhead, was designated a registered heritage structure on December 2nd, 2000 by the Heritage Foundation of Newfoundland and Labrador. And here's the Journal of the Legislative Council of the Island of Newfoundland in 1880. Blackhead, present 38. The reading and spelling were medium. The elder pupils should have known tables and the elementary rules of arithmetic. Grammar and geography were not taught. The schoolhouse is new, being built the past summer, and is suitable and commodious. A few more desks, a blackboard, and some small maps are required to complete the school furniture. I understand the board intend on making a change of teachers at an early day. And this was a report of the public schools of Newfoundland under the Roman Catholic boards for the year ended 31st of December 1879. So it's still got the original, looks like it still has the original windows and some newer ones built on the outside to preserve them. And over here would have been the outhouse for the students and teachers to use the washroom during their school day. There was an upstairs, so maybe there was a bedroom for the teacher upstairs. The teacher could live here on site. And here is the remains of the stone foundation of the church that originally sat right here on the east side of the one-room school. So here's the corner here. The church would have been a small stone church built in this area here. So here behind me, folks, is one of the 3 forts I was telling you about. Those gray forts on the other side of the harbor there, that's Fort Chain Rock. And there was actually, during World War I, there was wooden log booms stretched across the harbor, and that was to prevent surface-fired torpedoes from entering St. John's Harbor here behind me. And that would be Station Charlie. Station Bravo would be Fort Amherst, and Station Alpha would be Fort Cape Spear, where we just came from. So we're gonna walk out there now. Fort Amherst was originally built in 1777, and it was actually built before that, but it was reconstructed in 1777 by Captain Robert Pringle, or Colonel Robert Pringle, sorry. And he named it Fort Amherst after Colonel Amherst, who fought off the French and recaptured St. John's from the French in 1762. So over here on the top of the mountain we have Signal Hill up on the top there, and I do have a video on that National Historic Site. I believe I called it "The World's First Telegraph Was Sent From Here." I'll put a link to it in the description, and hopefully I'll make a playlist linking this one, the Red Cliff video where the Americans had a radar station, and put those all together for a playlist for you guys. During the Second World War, from Fort Chain Rock, I believe, right straight across the Narrows to the Harbour, were actually chain nets, and that would prevent German U-boats and torpedoes from entering the St. John's Harbour. A little bit of info here, let's check this out. Frederick's Cove and Frederick's Battery. For nearly 200 years after the island of Newfoundland was discovered by John Cabot in 1497, England regarded Newfoundland as little more than a summer fishing station, a place for business and profit making. Permanent settlement, considered an impediment to a successful fishery, was not officially encouraged until 1699, Act of William III. By which time England had been tolerating the numerous fishermen who were already overwintering on the island to protect fishing premises. England saw little need for the expense and trouble of building defenses. By comparison, France had settled Placentia in 1658 and built a garrison there, in anticipation of competing with England for control of the lucrative fishery, and perhaps even annexing Newfoundland to its holdings in New France. England gradually understood the need to defend Newfoundland, and St. John's in particular, not only from French advances, but also from other European nations and from pirates. By the late 1600s and early 1700s, a series of batteries was established on the north and south sides of St. John's Harbour. The early batteries were built by the residents themselves, before the English government also took responsibility for defence. Frederick's Battery was built in this cove in the late 1600s, probably around 1669, as one of these defences for St. John's. In its earlier days, Frederick's Battery was also known as Fort Charles, but by the mid-1770s, Frederick's Battery was the name commonly used for this site, and it appeared as such on most maps of the day. Frederick's Battery was strategic in the English defense of St. John's after several attacks from the French between the 1690s and the 1790s, during which period England and France were also intermittently at war in Europe. Despite its usefulness in times of attack, Frederick's Battery suffered from lack of attention, perhaps because its location on the south side of the harbour was removed from the primary development of St. John's on the north side. Its facilities often succumbed to disrepair, only to be restored whenever England felt threatened. One such restoration took place 1777, and yet another in 1811. But without regular care and maintenance, and given its exposure to the harsh climate and the seas so close to the open Atlantic, the battery fell into disrepair within a few years after each restoration. No restoration was undertaken after 1815. By 1848, Frederick's Battery was no longer considered to be needed for defense, and its barracks were considered for isolation of smallpox patients. In the evening of the day, the barracks were visited by Dr. William Carson to assess their suitability for the purpose. The building burned to the ground, sealing the final fate of the battery. In 1852, Frederick's Battery was officially abandoned. So here's Frederick's Battery in 1991. So there were batteries and defenses built all the way around the St. John's Harbour, both at the entrance to the harbour and inside the harbour, by both the French and the English. Pretty interesting stuff, eh guys? This is a very narrow road here. It's walk-in access only. Got to park at the parking lot down the road. Hi. Great. Here's an old fishing stage here, and you can see remnants of previous fishing stages that were built all along here. But like many of the batteries and reinforcements in this area, they've been washed out by the Atlantic. Seen some pretty good storms come through here. I'm only 45 years old, and this area gets battered pretty good during we get the tail end of the hurricanes that come up through the Caribbean and up the eastern seaboard of the US, and we also get fierce winter storms here that are very similar to hurricanes. This old guardrail system here with the steel beams and this cable, I believe this is the original guardrail system installed probably during the Second World War to keep the army jeeps from sliding off this narrow road as they were going back and forth to Fort Amherst. Pretty nice day here for November 15th. The sun came out, the wind has died down just for one day, and we're back into 120 km/h winds and rain. So here behind me is the famous Fort Amherst. It was designated a National Historic Site of Canada in 1951. However, it has fallen to ruin. Being so close to the Atlantic, it's hard to maintain areas like this, but it's a very popular site for tourists. I would love to see it restored so people can get down, climb down around it, and explore the original fortresses of St. John's, Newfoundland. You can still see the guns. So as you can see, folks, this is a really good place to defend your territory. And there was up to 20 guns at this fortress here at Fort Amherst, or Fort Amherst. And I've got some other obligations today. I got to go help my sister pull in her dock at the cabin before the winter. So I'm going to end the video here. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Deep Dive Survivor. Hit subscribe so you can see all my future videos. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this. Share this with your friends, and we'll see you on the next one, guys. Thank you so much for joining us.